Allah is continuing with a discussion regarding practices that we engage in on a daily basis and how we are able to take actions which are customary in a sense that all human beings do them. These are actions that every human being does, whether he is a believer or whether he is not. Every believer has to eat, and now he is discussing the etiquette and the way of how we should be living our daily lives and how we should be engaging in practices that we do on a daily basis. And in our dars last week, he spoke about our speech. And how we should talk and what we should utter and what we should not. Pass the other microphone. And he spoke also about our etiquette in terms of walking. And then he spoke about sleeping. And he spoke about the value of time. And then he commenced with a discussion on eating. So he said, Rahimahullah tabaraka wa ta'ala, that when you eat or drink, you have to begin with Bismillah. You start eating and drinking in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that a person that recites Bismillah before eating prevents shaitan from eating with him. In the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi, the Sahabi narrated that they had a meal with Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and then he said that never did they experience so much barakah in the beginning of the meal, and similarly they never experienced a meal that was so much void of barakah at the end. So the beginning was filled with barakah, the end was void of barakah. And then they said, Ya Rasulullah, never did we eat a meal that had so much barakah at the beginning and had no barakah, was void of barakah at the end. Blessing. Do you know what is barakah in food? Barakah in food is that there are two ways in which barakah can be understood. Number one is that you are eating and eating, but the food is not ending. There's just more food and more food even though you are eating. Another meaning of barakah could be that you ate so little and it was very filling. It filled you up, a little of the food filled you up because there's barakah in the food. So never did we experience a meal that had so much barakah in the beginning but so much void of barakah at the end. So Rasulullah he said, yes, when we began eating we recited Bismillah and shaitan was therefore unable to eat with us. But then somebody came to join us, and when he joined us, he did not recite Bismillah, so he opened the door for shaitan to eat with us. So when he joined us, the food had no barakah, and therefore it felt that there was no barakah at the end of the meal. So reciting Bismillah at the beginning of a meal prevents shaitan from eating with you. Thereafter, the Prophet similarly taught us that if a person forgets to recite Bismillah at the beginning, he should recite Bismillahi awwalahu wa akhirahu when he remembers. So if you forget to recite Bismillah at the beginning of a meal, shaitan may eat with you. But when you recite Bismillahi awwalahu wa akhirahu, he needs to desist and stop eating. He cannot continue eating with you. Then the scholars, they asked, what about a person who only remembers that he forgot to recite Bismillah when he's done eating? So while I'm eating, if I recite Bismillahi awwalahu at the beginning, wa akhirahu and at the end, then shaitan who was eating with me has to desist from eating, can no longer eat with me. But if I'm done eating and I remember, what's the benefit of reciting Bismillahi awwalahu wa akhirahu? Because there's nothing for shaitan to desist from eating already. He already ate. This is a famous hadith, and we often mention it, but I'm relating it now because it's a addition that I want to add to this discussion. Right? So the question came up, should you or should you not? And then the ulama, they mentioned that you should. In the commentary of the Shamai, they say that even if you completed your meal, you should still recite Bismillah awwala wa akhira. And what's the benefit of that? Ahmad, what's the benefit? You recite it again. Shaitan has to vomit out the food. So if Shaitan ate with you, the Prophet ﷺ went to a group of Sahaba. Then they ate the meal up. Then the Sahabi remembered he forgot to recite Bismillah. So he recited Bismillah awwala wa akhira, and the Prophet was seen smiling. The Rasul asked that, why are you smiling, Ya Rasulullah? The Prophet said, that man forgot to recite Bismillah until he ended his meal. And then he recited Bismillah awwalahu wa akhirah. And on account of that, he harmed Shaitan, and Shaitan vomited out the food that he ate. Right? Now this discussion, I'm mentioning it now in detail because one of our young sisters, Radia is her name, she asked the question that if Shaitan has to vomit out the food that he ate, if you recite Bismillah at the end, then why don't we all just forget to recite Bismillah at the beginning and then recite it at the end so we can all harm Shaitan? By causing him to vomit, he'll have to vomit all day. Right? And how would you answer that question? Answer is simple. You may do that and harm Shaitan, but in the process you're harming yourself as well, because you're allowing Shaitan to eat with you whenever you're eating, and you're depriving yourself of barakah from Allah. So if you have a choice between harming Shaitan by causing him to vomit at the end, and then in the process depriving yourself from Allah's barakah, and having Shaitan eat with you, then that's not ideal. It's better to recite Bismillah so you can receive barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not have Shaitan participate and eat with you. No. So Bismillah. And when you have eaten, Rasul Sallallahu taught us to recite Allahumma barik lana fima razaqtana, and then warzuqna khayran min, grant us better than it. But when the Prophet ﷺ drank milk, he used to pray. So whenever the Prophet ate anything, he said, oh Allah, bless us in what you have given us as sustenance and grant us better. But when he had milk, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Allahumma barik lana fima razaqtana, oh Allah, bless us in that which you have given us as sustenance. And then what did he say? He did not say, and grant us better. What did he say? Wazidna min, increase us of it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, there's nothing that takes the place of a drink and food other than milk. There's nothing that takes the place of drink and food, sharab wa ta'am, other than milk. Milk is a drink and a food. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And if you're someone that is accustomed to drinking milk or milk beverages, you would have experienced the truthness in the words of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in that a glass of milk can cause satiation. It makes you full. You can skip a meal by drinking a glass of milk. And the Prophet ﷺ said, nothing takes the place of food and drink other than milk, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then he said today that before eating you should wash your hands. And those are obvious etiquettes. From the sunnah to wash your hands, but just if you think about it, if you're going to use your hands to eat, then how much bacteria, how much germs exist on your hand? Everywhere you go, you're touching, you're holding onto the staircase as you're coming up the staircase. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us that before eating, one should wash his hand, right? So that when you eat, you don't place any germs within your food. And also from the sunnah is to eat with the hand, to eat with your hand. Foods that can be eaten with the hand, is from the sunnah to eat with the hand. There were times when Rasul ﷺ would use an instrument with which he ate. And therefore, if you see somebody now and then maybe using a fork or using a spoon, then it would be incorrect to say that that person is, to criticize that person, because there were times when the Prophet ﷺ did so. But his predominant practice was that he ate with his hands, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And many years ago, I don't know if I heard it or read it. They said that when a person eats with his hands, from his fingertip produces enzymes that assist with digestion. So young brothers, digestion is when your stomach breaks down your food and your food goes through your intestines and your long one and then your short one. And you all know what happens once it reaches the large intestine. What happens, Ahmed? The body releases it. That's the digestive system. And when you're young, your body works very, Allah has given you young, healthy bodies and it works perfect. But as you become of age, people start struggling with their digestive system. And sometimes the digestive system doesn't work 100%. And sometimes, depending on the person's diet and a number of other things, one struggles to release stool. Therefore, the Prophet ﷺ taught us whenever leaving the toilet, the lavatory, once leaving the lavatory, the Prophet taught us to say, Alhamdulillah, alladhi adhaba anil adha, that has removed that which is harmful to my body from my body. In some narrations, the Prophet said, all praise be to the one that has removed that which is harmful of the food that I consumed. Allah removed that which is harmful and kept within me that which is beneficial. That our bodies take from food that which is beneficial to the body. And it spoke of the Prophet ﷺ's understanding of the digestive system. But not only that hadith, there's many hadith that speaks of the Prophet's knowledge of the body and the functioning of the body. Rasul ﷺ was the best physician that walked this earth because he knew the haqa'iq, the realities of things. He understood the reality of the sun rising and the sun setting and the stars in the sky. And وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. We showed him the reality of the creation of the heavens and the earth. The Prophet understood. If he understood the realities of the universe, then of course he understood the realities of the human body. And therefore the Prophet often would advise people what to take and what not to take and what food is beneficial and what food is not beneficial. And here he showed us his knowledge of the digestive system, and from his sunnah, which is eating with the hand, there's scientific evidence to show that enzymes are produced by your fingertips, and when you eat, it assists with digesting food. And I highlighted the challenges of people face in terms of digestion, because when you are young and your bodies work fine, then it's not an issue. You just take things for granted. But if you go with Dr. Ibrahim to hospital and he must show you how people are suffering because of their digestive system, sometimes constipation, sometimes irritable bowel syndrome, sometimes gas, sometimes acid, whatever. No. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to the one that has removed that which is harmful and kept within us that which is beneficial. So the Prophet ﷺ taught us to eat with the hand. Then also relating to the digestive system, the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us that you should tasghir al-luqmah. When you take food to your mouth, don't take a large amount of food. Take a small amount, right? And tadqiq al-madh. When you take a small amount of food to your mouth, chew your food properly. Ajib that Imam Haddad is speaking about this. Like Zahir started reading this and I thought, we read about these type of etiquettes last week. We're supposed to move on to a different book today. But I'm thinking now, I'm looking at many of our young boys over here. I don't even know if your parents teach you this at home, how to eat. Imam Haddad is telling you how to eat. Take a small amount of food, number one. Eat with your hand. Recite Bismillah at the beginning. Wash your hands, number two. Eat with your hands, number three. Take a small amount of food when eating. Chew your food properly. These are Islamic etiquettes, but they all present health benefits for you that you will see one day when you become old. Now, and then he continued with the etiquette. He said that while you're eating, don't stretch your hand out to take something else. First swallow what you have in your mouth. Now you go for another piece of food. Right? The day what happened is I'm still eating and I'm worried about the next. Right? Today people, their eyes, they develop such greed and desire for what's in front of them. They'll take one piece of thing that they wanted to eat, and before they can even eat it, they're already taking the next thing. Right? وَلَا تَمُدَّنَّ يَدَكَ. Do not stretch out your hand to any food if you still have food in your mouth. That's from the etiquette of eating. And then he said, when eating, you eat from around your plate. You eat from that which is in front of you primarily. There's different things in the plate. Eat from wherever, there's different types of food within a plate, and you eat from whatever food you wish. But he said, don't eat from the center of a plate, because Allah's barakah descends down on the center of the plate. If food falls down on the ground or on the tablecloth, wherever it is, then as far as possible, remove that which is filth and eat the rest. Doesn't mean you need to throw it away. If I have the sweet and my sweet fell onto this carpet, pick up the sweet and blow the dust off, wipe the dust away, and continue eating. Doesn't mean you must throw it away. If somebody tells you that's dirty or sis, how can you eat that? You say, my Prophet taught me I should do that. He said, I must clean it and I must eat it. And he said, don't leave it for shaitan. When you're done eating, from the sunnah of Sayyidina Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is to lick your fingers. Now it's important to note that the sunnah is to lick your fingers when you are done eating. What about licking your fingers while eating? If I'm eating with someone in a plate, and then I lick my fingers and put my hands back into the plate, that's considered makruh. Ibn Hajar in his commentary on the Shama'il says it's makruh for you to lick your fingers and to put your hands back into a plate when you're eating with someone else. Or you're eating food from which someone else must eat. Because now you're intentionally mixing your saliva with the food and that somebody else needs to consume. And then when eating with the hand, the Prophet's sunnah was to eat with how many fingers? What fingers? What 3 fingers? the middle, the index and the thumb. Al-Wusta, Al-Sababa, and Al-Ibham. These 3 fingers, the Prophet said. And if that is difficult, then use more fingers. But start eating with your hand and eventually try to get there. No. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when eating with others, then be sure to eat from that which is in front of you. The Prophet ﷺ, a young man was eating with him and his hand was all over the plate. The Prophet told him, Kul mimma yalik. Eat from that which is in front of you. And if there's a variety of food in the plate, then it's fine for you not to eat from that which is in front of you. I mentioned that. How do we know that? From the hadith. Sayyidina Anas radiallahu ta'ala said that a tailor invited Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for a meal. And when this tailor served the Prophet some food, there was possibly rice and gravy and maybe meat or chicken, I don't know the details of the meal, but from what was in the plate that the Prophet was eating for sure was cut up pieces of pumpkin. Many narrate the hadith that there was squash, but it was actually pumpkin. What's it called now? Ad-dubba. Ad-dubba that many people translate locally as squash. It's not squash. Rasul never had that type of squash in the Arabian Peninsula. What they mean by ad-dubba is what we know to be a pumpkin. So pumpkin was cut up, piece of all over the plate. And Sayyidina Anas said, I saw the Prophet's hand following wherever the pumpkin was. And I came to learn that day that the Prophet loved pumpkin, because the Prophet never ever said he loved any type of food. He never expressed love to things of this dunya. When the Sahaba said he loved or liked something, it's because they observed that he liked something. So he observed that the Prophet liked pumpkin. And then he said that, from that day I also liked pumpkin. Even though he didn't really like it, but because the Prophet liked it, he made himself like it. And that's another important thing that you can do. If you love Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then that which was beloved to him will be beloved to you. Even if you find it strange initially, you can develop a like for something. Allah. So who can we give some pumpkin? Of course, the way the pumpkin was made, generally when we make pumpkin locally, the pumpkin is almost like a puree. That's what do you call it? Like mashed. Whereas the pumpkin, based on the hadith, if there were pieces of it laying around the plate, then it means it was cut up cubes, almost like how we would have butternut within our dishes. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. No. And then also it's not from the etiquette when you're eating with people to look at those who are eating around you. Make people feel uncomfortable. And then can you eat while eating? Can you eat? Can you speak while eating? Imam Haddad said, وَتَحَدَّثْ مَعَهُمْ. Speak with people that you are eating. بِمَا يُنَاسِبَ الْحَالِ. Such discussion which is suitable for the sitting that you are in. No. But do not speak while food is in your mouth. Do not speak while food is in your mouth. And then do not speak unnecessarily also. I've eaten with people, and while eating they talk so much, you're done eating and they haven't started eating. No. And then he said, if you need to blow your nose or spit, then walk away and do it somewhere else. If you need to go spit somewhere else or blow your nose out somewhere else, then what about releasing flatulence? It's not from the adab to do stuff like that while people are eating. And if you're eating by people, he said, praise them for the food that they've given you. And once you're done eating, what do you recite? What do you recite after eating? Mr. Bester? You smile. What do you bacha? Alhamdulillah illadhi at'amani. Alhamdulillah at'amana wa saqana wa ja'alana min al-muslimin. That's the dua that we are accustomed to here back home. Another dua you can make from the sunnah is Alhamdulillah Allahumma kama at'amtani. Oh Allah, is how you have fed me. Tayyiban, that which is good. Fasta'milni, use me for good similarly. Where's Shaykh Khalid? Another dua the Prophet also makes is Alhamdulillah alladhi at'amani. Oh, praise be to the one, to Allah, who has given me food. Min ghayri hawli minni wala quwwa. Not on account of my effort, not on account of my strength. When you're sitting and you have food at your table, never imagine it's because of. I go many times the husband needs to assert his authority over the family, then he gives the impression that I put the food on this table. The Prophet taught us here to say, Oh Allah, all praise be to Allah who has given us food, not on account of my effort. Not because of my work, not because of my business, not because of my income. Min ghayri hawli minni wala quwwa. Because at the end of the day, whatever I achieved is only Allah. Where am I? Everything I do is Allah. If I did good in my studies, Allah made me good in my studies. If I earned good money, Allah made me good money. I could have all the intelligence and all the skills and I can be the best at whatever I do. But if Allah doesn't decree for me to have money, khalas, then we no money. Then we no food on my table. Min ghayri hawlin minni wala quwwa. In reality, this food is here not because of my effort, or because of my intelligence, or because of my work, or because of my money. Min ghayri hawlin minni wala quwwa. And then the Prophet said, whoever says that acknowledges that the food on his table is Allah, not him. Min ghayri hawlin minni wala quwwa. غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. All his past and future sins will be forgiven. Why? Because you have acknowledged now that you are no one and you can do nothing. It is only Allah. It is only Allah. Now, and then he said that there's no need for you to strive to have a gravy for every dish. And he said that you should never criticize food. You should never criticize food, even if the food is bad. This here needs a context as well, right? It needs a context as well. Like, I have my good friend Ridwan Jacob. When you have a meal at his home and the food is good, you can't thank his wife. If you thank his wife to say the food is good, he say, no, 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 don't praise her. That's because of my criticism that the cooking is so good. Thank me. Ajib. And then he said, with regards to eating, don't make your concern eating good. Right? How many of us are focused around good food? Like if you leave here now, you're going to have lunch, you're thinking, what's good? What's more enjoyable? What tastes better? Right? Tonight, what food did my mom make? What food did my wife make? Right? So your focus becomes طيبات, nice, good food. وتناول الشهوات. He says, don't make that your himma, don't make that your beginning and your end. Don't make that your focus. Why not? Because you may just be guilty of being from those people regarding whom the Prophet ﷺ said, Shirar ummati, the worst of my ummah. Are those people who are nourished with my favors and their bodies are growing through my favors, but their concern is the different types of food and different types of clothing. وَيَتَشَدَّقُونَ فِي الْكَلَامِ, and their speech is harsh speech or ugly speech. So from the worst people of the ummah are people that make their concern the types of food that they're going to have. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala said that whoever's focus and concern is that which enters his belly, his worth is that which exits his belly. Whoever his primary focus is that what he eats, that what enters his belly, his worth will be that which comes from his body. And then he said, exert yourself to ensure that all you eat, that you only consume halal. That you only consume. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith that, how does it go now? Kullu lahmin nabata ala haramin. I think that's the words of the Prophet. Every flesh of your body that grows forth from haram. This is a very important hadith. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, when he heard this hadith, because of this hadith that some of you are not paying attention to, you know what Sayyidina Abu Bakr did? One day, a servant of his brought him some milk or something to drink. So he drank. Then the servant notified him that, look, I took this milk from such a place, I'm not sure if it was yours or not. I forget the story behind it, I'm not sure if it's halal or not. That's what it came down to. And because of that doubt, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala forced himself to vomit and vomit and vomit and vomit and vomit till he nearly vomited his stomach out. And then he turned to Allah and he said, Ya Rabb, this is my ability that I am to remove that which was doubtful. So don't take me to task. And then he said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ saying that any flesh that grows from haram food, or food that was purchased with haram monies, which makes the food haram, any flesh that grows forth from haram, the fire is more deserving of that flesh. Any part of my body, skin, hair, flesh, fat, you name it, that grows from haram, Rasul said the fire is more deserving of it. So be very particular to ensure that your body is only nourished with halal. Because if it's nourished with haram, the fire is more deserving of that body. Now, haram food is not just swine and alcohol or carrion. Who knows what is carrion? Any other hifz boys know what is carrion? Huh? Any of the brothers here? What's carrying? Huh? Hey? Dead flesh. Dead meat. All meat is dead. Huh? What's maita? Any animal that is not slaughtered according to Islamic rites is considered carrion. So if you go eat any piece of meat that was not slaughtered according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the name of Allah, by a Muslim, etc., then that's carrion. Um, there's many examples of meat that is it's doubtful whether it was slaughtered correctly or not. Like there was a big discussion around Brazilian chickens. Is it slaughtered correctly or not? Your job is to look at your local Islamic organization. If your ulama said it's halal, and you don't doubt the ulama. If the ulama has stated something is halal, then you don't doubt him. Because then you're going to become a cause of fitna. And if you really want to be extra pious, then stay away from something that you have doubted, but don't cause people to doubt the positions that ulama and the ulama bodies have taken. I just want to show you examples of how sometimes um, you consume things that may be haram, but it's not swine and alcohol, because we have a mindset that when we speak about eating haram, we're speaking about swine and alcohol. But haram is not just swine and alcohol. Haram is also sometimes carrion, something that was not slaughtered correctly. Haram is sometimes also something that is halal, but it was contaminated with alcohol or contaminated with najasa. You were braaiing and then you used a pig bristle brush to marinate your meat. So that is najis, and now you applied najis to your meat and you're eating najasa is haram. But the biggest way in which we eat haram is my income is not a halal income. I steal money or I steal food, that's eating haram. Or my income is haram, and with my haram income, because I gambled and I took money from gambling, or I took interest from the bank. Many Muslims are involved in interest. I took that interest and I bought me Nando's, and even though Nando's had a big MJC halal stamp, it's haram because I bought it with haram. So I'm consuming haram. Or I do a job that is haram, and on account of the job being haram, the income is haram, so I'm consuming haram. So these are ways in which, the most common way in which people consume haram is through haram income. And therefore we're living in a time where our students in the kutub section, your studies in mu'amalat maliyah or mu'amalat in general, Islamic business law, is crucial to give people guidance in terms of what's halal and what's haram in their businesses, or their investments, or their finances, or their employment, anything related to mu'amala these days, especially maliya mu'asira, contemporary Islamic contracts. It's essential that you study it well and give people guidance in this regard, because most people that are consuming haram today are consuming haram because their businesses are not Islamic. واجتهد ألا تدخل بطنك إلا حلالا. Make sure that you only consume that which is halal. A person who consumes halal for 40 days, Imam Haddad said, his heart becomes illuminated, and springs of wisdom flows from his tongue. Right? Halal has a capacity to cause you to have wisdom. Through the halal that you eat, you become a person of hikmah, of wisdom, such that wisdom flows from your tongue. Now, and the nonsense some people are talking today, you wonder what they are eating. And Allah will honor him with asceticism in this dunya, and his inner will become pure. and his interactions with his Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become good. وَحَسُنَتْ مُعَامَلَتُهُ مَعَ رَبِّهِ. And whoever consumes haram, or that which is doubtful, what happens? His heart becomes dark. Your heart becomes black. And instead of having wisdoms flow from your tongue, you speak a lot of rubbish. And you become someone that is more interested in dunya and dunya and dunya. And your inner becomes muddy and clouded. And you don't interact correctly with your Lord. Interacting correctly with your Lord means interacting correctly with those around you. And of those around you, your interaction with your seniors need to be better. In society these days, we have people that don't know how to interact with seniors and don't know what it means to honor the seniors. No. From your showing honor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet said, is ikramu the shaybatil Muslim, is showing honor to elderly people whose hair have gone grey, referring to the age. Inna min ijlalillahi ta'ala, the Prophet said, from you showing greatness to Allah is showing greatness to seniors. If you eat halal, you will produce good character with those around you, especially the seniors. And I'm saying this because someone was just relating something to me earlier, where not seniors are being disrespected, sometimes senior ulama are being disrespected. And that speaks about a sad state of a person's heart and a sad state of the person's inner. And I'm mentioning this now because somehow the discussion came to your interactions with your Lord. And I want to impress upon our students that no matter who the senior is, even if the senior is a non-Muslim, your duty is to respect that senior. Even if the senior is a sinner, your duty is to respect that senior. I had a discussion just this morning. I don't want to share any more details because I don't want you to try and think who I met. I had a discussion this morning with a senior gentleman who has a short grey beard, and he was engaging in complete haram. And with adab and etiquette, I apologized to him, for speaking to him directly. But I said it's my job to tell you that what you're doing is haram. And it's going to be a cause of bad. You're spoiling basically your life and that of your children by engaging in this haram. But the same person was doing other good, and then I prayed for him. I pray that through the other good that you're doing, Allah erases the bad that you're doing. A person, I could have had an attitude that look at what you're doing, and don't you know Allah's law? He's a senior. Inna min ijlalillah, from you showing greatness to Allah is showing greatness to your seniors. And I'm sharing this now because even though my time is up, because the students of our madrasa, males and our sisters that are on the other side, you cannot be a student of deen and you cannot be a student of the Quran if you can't show respect to seniors. Then you might as well leave here and go study something else, become whatever else you want in this dunya, but you can't be someone that represents deen and you don't have respect for seniors, especially if those seniors are ulama. You don't have to agree with it. If you must show respect to someone that's a non-Muslim, if you're senior, what if that person is a Muslim? And then what if that person happens to be an alim that has been serving communities for longer than you have been walking this earth? We have at this institute, we have zero tolerance to showing disrespect to seniors. Just keep that lesson in mind. So a person who consumes halal, his interaction with others and Allah becomes beautiful. And the one who consumes haram, his interaction with others is bad, and his interaction with his Lord is bad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who perfect our interactions with others. And may we adopt these etiquettes of eating. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Barakallah. Did the bell go for break already? What time is break? 22. And what time does break in? 10 past. Muhammad, read a nice nasheed for us. Okay, Bismillah. Read Azhar. If you appointed a munshid, you must sit in front for the job.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله، كلما ناديت ياه قال يا عبدي أنا الله، قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري، فلهذا السر أدعو في يساري وعساري. أنا عبد صار فأخري ضمن فقري واضطراري. الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله، كلما ناديت ياه قال يا عبدي أنا الله، يا إلهي ومليكي أنت تعلم كيف حالي، يا إلهي ومليكي أنت تعلم كيف حالي، وبما قد حل قلبي من هموم واشتغال. الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله، كلما ناديت ياه قال يا عبدي أنا الله، فتداركني بلطف منك يا مولى الموالي، فتداركني بلطف منك يا مولى الموالي، يا كريم الوجه غثني قبل أن يفنى اصطباري. الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله 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 الله، ما لنا مولى سوى الله، كلما ناديت ياه قال يا عبدي أنا الله، كلما ناديت ياه قال يا عبدي أنا الله.
يا ربنا بأننا افترضنا
مولانا أسرفنا على لظى أشرفنا،
فتب علينا توبة تغسل كل حوبة، واستر لنا الأورات وآمن الروعات، واغفر لوالدينا
ربي ومولودينا
والأهل والإخوان وسائر الخلان، وكل ذي محبة أو جيرة أو صحبة، والمسلمين أجمع. آمين ربي اسمع فضلا وجودا منا لا باكتساب منا، بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول، بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول، بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول. صلى وسلم ربي عليه عد الحب، وآله وصحبه عداد طش الصحب، والحمد للإله في البدء والتناهي. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون، وسلام على المرسلين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه. الفاتحة. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون.